Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 421. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Matt, what's the coolest multiplayer medal?
One of the one of those. What's the Halo one where you just go like a rampage? Yeah, that's probably first thought up there. I was about to say a boom headshot, but that's not a medal. That is just the little phrase you get when you get a plus 50 headshot in Call of Duty.
That's yeah. Mark, what's the coolest multiplayer medal?
Yeah, I was gonna say Mount Kilimanjaro, but it's not really a medal. The one I'm thinking of, but to me it's a medal, and it's when you slap your friend to death in GoldenEye and their screen goes red. That's a medal for me.
That wins. And is metal. This is cheating, but I always liked the in Perfect Dark. You got multiplayer medals. Like you got it was like red, blue, something or other. They were cumulative though across your whole career. And I remember they were buried a little bit, but that was one of the early games where I remember having local stats stored. And when my brother and I finally found that hidden menu, we were just like, look at how many things. It was most number of kills, most number of you would get stuff for evading being killed or hiding for too long. They tracked all that stats. I thought that stuff was super cool.
That's also impressive because you have to program so much stuff around that too to track that.
Yeah, on an N64 game.
Maybe I would have appreciated that game more, or even played it, had my friends not hogged my 64 on my 12th birthday. And that's all they played, so I hated that game.
Are you excited about the upcoming reboot featuring Crystal Dynamics lending a hand, which is very weird?
Yes.
Did you guys catch that story?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a shot now. I mean, I
was actually going to suggest on the night of releases, did we want to have a sleepover and hog the Xbox from Mark?
I'm down, dude. I'll see you on Mark's birthday, 2026, when that game finally comes out.
Guys, go off my PC.
We're going to talk more about Nintendo 64 games later on, among some other things we've got planned for the show. But first, Game of the Year. If you've been listening for the last, 20-ish episodes, we've been tracking our Game of the Year, ranking the top 25 of our top 5 over the last 5 years. This week's game is none other than 2016's Hyper Light Drifter, brought to you by indie developer Heart Machine. This was a cool game. And I think a lot of games have drawn inspiration from The Legend of Zelda, but this was one of the first ones. It's kind of like, I think we, especially now, there are so many games that were inspired by Metroid or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, where that is its own genre at this point, and you're not really an indie developer unless you're making a Metroidvania. But so many of them kind of fall and are muted, right? And it's just, not that they're bad, it's just it's way too oversaturated, but every now and then one rises above the rest. I think same thing with Shovel Knight and the retro aesthetic. That was the one that kind of cut through and it actually worked a bit. I think Hyper Light Drifter was the one Zelda clone in a long time that had kind of stood out among the rest. I kind of liked the mirroring of the main character with the developer. He has a heart condition that he talks about, and I mean, he talked about how it affected development of that game. He talked about how it affects his life day to day, but having that incorporated into the character and the story behind the character as you travel through the game, I thought was an interesting dynamic. I thought you got some really cool abilities. The adventure and exploration, that was one where Zelda games also, you can feel like you're lost pretty quickly, but I never truly felt lost. And if I did, you could kind of backtrack and you'd quickly find a new way to go or a new place to try out an ability. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, when we all played that, there was someone went east first, someone went south first. There is an order you're supposed to go, and you are gated at some point, but I think there's parts where it can be a little fluid, playthrough by playthrough. I can't remember, but overall, I love that game. I still think back on that one fondly, and I think it looks great. I think the movement, the animation as well, it was one of those other examples from Game Maker that was oh, Game Maker can do some stuff. But yeah, what was your guys' experience, overall takeaway? How does it rest with you now?
So I guess I should start with saying that this was a game that unfortunately fell to my ever-growing catalog of games I'm hyped for, I play for a little bit, and don't finish. Not the game's fault, that's just a me thing. But I loved the presentation of this game. I loved the sprite animated cutscenes that it had. It was just visually so appealing. The combat, from what I played, felt like you were saying, everything was pretty fluid for the most part, especially when you started to actually get the I don't know if that was considered the drifting in Hyper Light Drifter, or the dashing or whatever. You start to chain that up, and you can build the momentum of going faster and faster. Wasn't great at it, but I love that you had simple mechanics that were hard to master, and that just added another layer to it all. But yeah, love that world, love that art style. I love that they are kind of still tapping into that style with their other upcoming game. I forget the name of it right now, but that one looks pretty cool.
I can't remember it either. I was trying to think of this the whole time. I can't, because I was
Ash
trying
something?
I think that sounds
Author Ash Stadium the second.
That's the one.
It's like a ice skating platformer. But yeah, I like everything about what
Solar Ash.
Solar Ash. Thank you. But yeah, everything about that game I think still still stands out to me. I actually did try jumping into it not too long ago, believe it or not. But again, didn't get too far because I was juggling games this time around. But yeah, that game definitely hits a vibe with me that I really appreciate and won't ever forget. So I think that means something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Matt.
The art style sticks out to me a whole lot in this game. You say this game, I immediately think of this, and it's unique. And I'm also a sucker for the color palette they used in this game. And like you said, the animations, the cutscenes, all that is what sticks out to me. In addition to the gameplay, you guys already touched on a lot of that, but I remember this game having that level of challenge where it wasn't easy, it wasn't hard, it wasn't one of a Dark Souls FU kind of hard thing, but there was a good level of challenge in this game where you got stuck on a couple parts and you kind of got that, oh yeah, all right, I just beat this part, let's keep going, kind of gratifying feeling a few times, at least for me, from what I remember playing it. This game fell victim to what I thought I should have done with Game of the Year games the first 3 years on the free cheese, where I thought I needed to play everything in the course of 3 weeks. So I didn't. I beat the game. I probably optimized that run a lot, but it's a game I kind of forgot. But if someone was forced me to play Hyper Light Drifter for a week again, I would not be mad about that at all. Yeah, no, But yeah, that art style and gameplay being king again, I think is a big part of why this game's so good.
So I think last week we skirted around the typical resting place, but I do think that this week on our list, I think we're back in Celeste territory.
There it is. Celeste is back.
So I'll put my foot out there. I think it hugs or is adjacent to Celeste on this list. I just don't know on which side. I think it's right below Celeste, right above Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And I say that only because I felt like Hyper Light Drifter was the perfect balance between challenge and gameplay, and I think like player growth as the character grows and changes as well, where Bloodstained at times felt like it started to outstay its welcome a bit. And I took breaks from Bloodstained because as much as I love it and games like that, it was too much of game, right? Like it just, too much of game sometimes.
Yeah, I was starting to feel around that area too when it comes to this list. I think the only difference for me is just preference of just how I like to play games, and Celeste was also another one of those games where I didn't really play much of, but to compare the two, I think I would rather go back to Hyperlight than Celeste, personally. But as an overall thing, I'm totally okay with it being...
No, I agree with that too, and like, thinking of it in that lens too, I think Celeste...
Yeah, why are we... I understand the statement about putting above Bloodstained, but why are we not talking about potentially this being above Celeste?
No, I think it could be. Now that Mark's presented the story,
because I'm leaning that way.
The way that Celeste story is presented through its characters is very on the nose, right? Like and that's fine. It worked perfectly for that. But I do like that there's a bit of mystique to Hyper Light Drifter. There's stuff that does mirror the actual creator's real world, but there's stuff in it that I think is more universal, and you can kind of apply that to any setting.
Yeah, we can't cheat and go to the tiebreaker of soundtrack because they both have awesome soundtracks again.
They do,
but,
yeah.
No,
I'm good with it above Celeste. Does it need to go above Red Dead?
I think that's where
it
stays.
There's always a possibility, but
there's a very real
I know one.
I'm trying
one party
I'm being diplomatic, but yeah, for sure.
I'm not entirely against it, but we'd have to talk about it. That's all.
Look, Matt's the one that has endured.
I know.
The horrors that are Red Dead Redemption 2.
It's not horrors though. Dude, me and the boys had a great fucking time back in 2018. God, that ride to that goddamn mansion, we burned it down. Oh, I can't tell you how psyched I was to burn down that goddamn mansion. Sadly, it was in the trailer. Sadly, it was in the trailer, and you knew that was going to happen. Anyway, so as far as Celeste over, other way around, the Hyper Light Drifter over Celeste, I think one of the key things, I know you mentioned story, but I think like Celeste does evolve its gameplay a little bit, but it's still pretty much the same with a couple double jump and dash mechanics. The levels of gameplay that are added and the layers and the abilities, I think evolve that game to almost a different game than to the start and to what you can and can't do. And I think that added complexity puts it over top of Celeste the more I think about it. As far as Red Dead, we can put it above Red Dead. That's fine.
Okay, then I need to go again. Is this over Fire Emblem?
Well, that's where I was going to go, because if we put over Red Dead, I
think it goes above Fire Emblem.
I think it goes above Fire Emblem, too.
Because for the same reasons that Bloodstained, I think Fire Emblem also can outstay its welcome. There's a lot of game to it, and I think that there's a lot of great game to it but in terms of like an experience that is just kind of, yeah, I think I like Hyper Light Drifter.
I'm gonna keep going. No,
honestly,
I'm gonna keep going.
Let's see how
no, this is what it comes down to with Hyper Light is like I liked Hyper Light better than I liked Fire Emblem, and I love Fire Emblem, but I liked it better. So
okay,
Splatoon
let's
2.
keep going. Splatoon 2. I'm putting it above Splatoon 2. We're getting there.
I'm there. Are we all good with that going above? Okay, how about
I stop.
Hitman?
All right, this is when my run, I tap out. I think Hitman Sandbox is way too creative and flexible, and I think gameplay, the amount of things, I know there's some fluidity in the way you can play Hyperlight, but Hitman Sandbox is way too fun. For me, at least.
Yeah.
I'll listen to arguments. I mean, we got here, why not?
No,
but that's where I'm at.
There's not much for me to argue against with that, I think.
I'm good with it right below Hitman, right above Splatoon 2. Am I allowed to, while we're ranking this, also play my move card? Because there's a game on this list that has been bothering me that I need to move.
All right.
Are you putting Red Dead at the bottom?
No, I'm not doing that. Okay, so real quick, let me lock this in. We're going to put Hyper Light Drifter above Hitman.
Above?
I'm sorry, below.
Yeah, okay.
I'm moving Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 below Final Fantasy 15.
Whoa.
It's a far drop, but okay. We can't argue it.
Wow.
I think the more that we've explored a lot of this list,
right,
and the more that we've talked about things, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is fantastic, but it's a game that I've been playing since 1998 or 9, whenever that first one was, and it's great. But there's so many other games in this list that I think just.
Yeah, I think if we're just judging just as a game, I still don't think it's bad, but I think Tony Hawk's strongest point is the culture that transcends, that goes beyond the game. I think that's where Tony Hawk stands out the most. No, which is important, but that doesn't quite. I'm not sure how much that carries weight into a Game of the Year list that we have here.
I mean, I think it also is. To me, it is one of the best games ever made. Period.
Yeah, I mean, it's still on this list, you know?
Yeah. But because I can sit and play that game for hours nonstop. I could play the exact same level with the exact same character over and over and over and over again. It's just so good. It feels so good.
It has that arcade simplicity to it.
Yeah, but looking at this list, I'm just like, there are experiences that I think are like wholly more new and interesting and intriguing than that. It's still in this list, and it should be in this list, but it's just.
I
think after we talked about like Resident Evil and Yakuza, because I've been playing a bunch of Yakuza this week, and like the more I play that game, the more I'm like, no, we made the right call on that one, of course. But Tony Hawk has just sat weird with me being that high on this list for so long.
So you like 15 more.
Again, like playing 15 again recently, I'm reminded that like that one did something brand new for Final Fantasy while still remaining true to Final Fantasy 1. I think that it introduced new characters and new mechanics that would carry the series forward, that we would see again in 7 Remake, that we'd see probably in 16. And I think that it did a lot for Final Fantasy. Like, remember, that's also the first Final Fantasy since, I guess 13 did it, but I feel like 13 was even smaller, and so 13 sequels were smaller than this on a global scale. Like, I think that 15 hit, and it hit cross-platform, it hit cross-culture. I think it just kind of was this big thing that had so much you could get from it, depending on your approach. The open world stuff, I think, is just such a... It's weird, and like it's not the best at times, but again, like when you compare and contrast that to Final Fantasy 1 or like 3, when you're like, it still feels like those games, just what if we made one in 2016? And I think that's
All right, well, while we're on the topic of Final Fantasy 15, I did make a small promise that upon completion, I would move the game accordingly based on my feelings. So I have completed Final Fantasy 15. I would say a decent chunk of side quests, not a lot of the hunting ones, enough to make money to buy things. And yeah, I saw the story through. Probably finished my characters in the high 40s in levels. If you just want to know playtime, I think I took a picture of my playtime. Let me see if I have it. I think it was around the 30-ish hour mark.
Wow.
If I remember correctly.
30 sounds about right from what I remember people.
Do I have it as the key?
The suspense.
I don't. Anyway, so that was a waste of time. Sorry. Yeah, but it was around like 30-ish hours, or like just under 30, anything like that. So here's the thing: I'm looking at this list and how I felt about that game. Look, all right, you all proved your point. I was a hater. I appreciate that game. I thought it was good. I would never talk bad about that game ever again. I just don't know where I would move this game because I think it's like in the perfect spot for me. I'd like the only argument that I would maybe like could throw out there on a permanent move is above Bloodstain, but like I'm not going to throw it above Celeste. And Bloodstain, like I never even played that game, so I feel like that's unfair to even do that. And I think that'd be a waste of a move. No, I like Red Dead better. That's the thing. Like, as much as I don't want this to turn into a Final Fantasy 15 conversation of my experience, but like as much as I enjoy combat and aspects of the world and the characters, the boy band, I actually really came to like towards the end of that. I mean, I thought there were other problems with like pacing and story. Some of that world looks the same. The end of that game, we were talking about pacing. The end of that game, like you spent like an hour or two if you were just doing main story stuff straight per chapter, and then all of a sudden, like from chapter 9 to 13, you blink and you're there. Very weird. But yeah, and then in terms of story, I think some stuff got lost on me personally. I don't know if I just didn't do enough to...
Did you watch the anime, dude?
Okay, so I already watched a fucking movie. But yeah, no.
Did you get the manga? It's Japanese only,
yeah.
But there's a fan translation that also adds in some of the stuff from the yeah.
Yeah, so maybe...
Did you go to 7-Eleven? Did you get the cup noodle from 7-Eleven that has the peel-off top with little story? Did you not do that? Like, I don't...
Yeah,
Did you read
I
my
don't
fan
know.
fiction?
Like I said, the other 50 hours of content probably are lost on me at this point. But, yeah, the stories... It hit some things. I think it missed on others. I think there are some weird character development stuff with some of the side characters. I think Luna Freya is a victim of that, by the way. Also Arden is a victim of that, by the way. But
there's episode Arden, dude. You got sorry.
I watched Kingsglaive and I had a lot of Arden in it, so I actually had the background I needed. Thank you very much. But yeah, no. As much as I like that game, I think there are enough problems with it that I had that, great game. I think it deserves to be on this list now. I'm now officially saying that, but I think it's good right where it's at. Like, there's no reason for me to move it above Bloodstained, especially because I played an hour, if that, of that game, and I don't have a fair judgment of that game at all. So, that's my official statement. I know I said I would use the move card on that game, but I don't know where to move it to.
No, I'm good with it. I'm good with that. I think the list looks really good right now. I'm worried about what's left because we've still got what? Mark still has to add a game, right?
Right.
Yeah, and move.
And then you both have your moves. And we still have, I would say, like 7 more games to cover. That's rough math. But
there's a handful. So we have completed a second year now. 2016 is all wrapped up. In addition to 2008. Never mind, I take that back. 2018 is not wrapped up. So 2016 is our first year we have wrapped up.
Nice. Okay. But yeah, we should be close on some of the other ones.
We are. We're a game away from 18, 2 from 17, 1 from 19, and there's actually a handful in 2020.
Yeah, I figured that one's.
But yeah, in terms of 2016 rankings, according to now, the way we would rank it, Doom would still be our game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The next one on the list would actually be Hyper Light Drifter.
It wouldn't be Hitman?
Oh, right, we did add that. Sorry. Yeah, so, right, I'm looking at the... Yeah,
I'm looking at
You're
table.
looking at so yes, I guess 2016 would be Doom, then Hitman, then Hyper Light Drifter at 3.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Final Fantasy 15?
It'd be Final Fantasy 15, Uncharted, and then
The Last Guardian.
6. And then
Still
opposed to originally in 2016, we had Doom, then The Last Guardian, then Uncharted, then Hyper Light Drifter, and then Final Fantasy 15. And then, of course, no Hitman because we did not play it that year.
Right. Wow. Well, more on that. This is still one of my favorite segments we've done in a while. Yeah, just it's nice to go back and look at games that are great and see how they still stand in our memory. Speaking of memory, if you remember last week, we talked a little bit about playing as the antagonist and what that looks like in games. And the question was posed, is there or has there ever been a Team Rocket ROM hack? And I did a little investigation. I also shout out to Kyle, the freecheese.com's very own Kyle. I was talking to him a little bit about Team Rocket ROM hacks because I know that Kyle is very much into weird Pokemon stuff. So we were talking a bit about these as well. But I found this one. There's a lot of Team Rocket ROM hacks. Some better than others. Some appreciated more than others, even if they don't seem like they're as good as others. But one I'm actually maybe on the cusp of checking out. I still want to finish Black before I jump into this because I want to see one all the way through. But Pokemon Fire Red Rocket Edition is the name of the one that I think seems the most interesting. It's a spiritual successor to another fan game called Pokemon Toxic Purple. Toxic Purple was a Fire Red hack from 2009 that you played as a Team Rocket grunt. You could steal Pokemon. This new one, this Fire Red Rocket Edition, takes it a bit further. So the only way you can actually capture monsters in the game is by stealing them. And initially you can only steal from certain types of trainers. So old people, children, that's about it. But as you level up your ranking within the organization, you're able to then obtain a higher level of you get a higher level of notoriety, and you can then steal from other people. So more trainers you can go up against. And the way it works is you have to defeat the trainer. So you still have the battle as you're wandering through the overworld. You do the battle. After the battle, you can steal, and you choose one of their Pokemon to just take. But that's the only way you do it. And the developer actually went through and devalued rewards that you get for wild Pokemon encounters. They things like that to incentivize stealing is the only way to do it.
Nice.
Initially, the game just kind of seemed very surface level like that. But the more I read about it, what they do in this is they run the story as the antagonist on Team Rocket parallel to Red's story. And they reveal secrets of the Kanto region that I think are a little bit inventive on the author's part, but they also incorporate popular fan theories about the Pokemon universe. So I didn't go too deep into that because I want to save some of that stuff for myself, but I saw some screenshots of entering Lavender Town, and I feel like they're going to lean into some of those cool things that are pretty good popular Pokemon fan theories. There's no other word for it. There's also a morality system in the game. So you can choose to kind of just be a jerk to everyone. You'll have other Team Rocket members or other bad guys in the world who will approach you and give you tasks to do, sort of side quests in the game. And by doing them, it affects your morality. You can either do the bad stuff or help out general people, and you get rewarded for both. depending on which way you skew. So that's an interesting mechanic that we haven't seen in a Pokemon game that I recall, morality wise. They've also gone through, and so this game was released in 2016 initially. Its most recent updates happened just a few months ago, but at the time of its release, Gen 6 was the most recent generation in Pokemon. So while Fire Red is based on Gen 3 mechanics, they've upgraded and added attacks and different contemporary mechanics from Gens 4, 5, and 6. They've included the Fairy type. They allow you to run right from the start of the game in and outside of buildings, and you can use Fly right away. You just walk outside for the first time, and then you fly, whatever you want to do.
Well, it seems in lore, doesn't Team Rocket just have the hot air balloon anyway?
So I don't know if that's how they, story-wise they do it, but I know that they said, you can use the HM Fly from the start of the game. So
I'm just going to believe my lore that I know.
I think that's cool, too, because I think so much of why I will get really into certain games, it's a combination of what the story's doing and how I can either apply it to my own being or apply my own stupid headcanon to it for fun. So, yeah, I think that's totally a valid approach, Matt. They give you a little bit, but you can add to it what you want. I want to try this one out. It seemed really well made, at least from the, I've played a couple of ROM hacks and things like that for Pokemon specifically, and sometimes you can tell it's just a project someone wanted to make, but while they were great at programming, they're not great storytellers, or the other way around, right? The hack is very minimal, but the story seems really intriguing. This seems like it's kind of balancing both in a good way, so yeah, that'll be down the line. I will definitely check that one out. But to answer last week's question, there is that, and it goes, along with the fact that you're. I like that it's running parallel to Red. That's very much the Plague Knight to Shovel Knight storyline.
I'm actually very interested in this.
Yeah, it seems cool.
Is it? Is it the anime Team Rocket, Jesse and James, or is it just Team Rocket grunts from the game?
It seems like just Team Rocket grunts. I did see, so I was reading through a forum from when the game was first released, and the creator had shared a post on some Pokemon ROM hack website in the forums there, and I was reading the thread and the replies to it, and I do remember seeing Jesse and James' name come up, but I can't remember if it was, you definitely don't play as them, but it was, I think you may run into them at some point. They may have been programmed into the game, or it was, because I was reading a bunch the other night back and forth, so I can't remember if it was that they're in this one or explicitly they're not in this one. There was one ROM hack where it was Jesse and James have nothing to do with this, and there was another one that did.
Some people like to separate the two, but
wasn't Jesse and James? I mean, obviously they weren't in original Red and Blue, but they made their appearance in Yellow, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They did, yeah.
Yeah,
and then
in Yellow.
I don't think they were re-added though in Fire Red. I think they kind of stay more true to the black suit for Team Rocket.
Yeah,
whatever.
Because Yellow was very loosely following the show. But yeah.
Yeah, that Pikachu following you. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all that matters in the end. So yeah, that one's out there. You can find it. The website for it was, I think, literally rocket-edition.com. And you can get all the instructions on how to run it. I'm curious to see if it runs on original hardware, if you have to play through an emulator. If it can run on OG hardware, I would play that on GBA today. But we'll see. I did this week play, not on original hardware, but I checked out another ROM hack called Smash Remix. This is a project that's been in development for a while. I think 2016 was the first kind of inklings of it showing up on the internet. And via Retronauts, I'll read the statement they have here because I thought this kind of summed it up. This overwhelmingly in-depth fan-made update to the original N64 Smash Bros. Game has finally reached official release status. On top of adding and implementing a ton of new and recreated character stages and music, it also offers new single-player modes, toggles for specific regional version differences, extremely granular training and debug options, and a wealth of quality-of-life features too numerous to list. you'll need an expansion pack in order to play this mod on real hardware, but it does work. So I think what you'd have to do if you have like the EverDrive 64 or one of those flash carts, you could pop it on there and play it on real hardware. It was fairly easy to patch a Smash 64 ROM with this and get it up and running. I ran into a little bit of trouble getting the actual patching process to work on Mac. But you can download all the files straight from the GitHub, and if you have your existing Smash ROM from your Smash cart, it's very easy to patch. I played this quite a bit. Sometimes we stumble upon things like this, and it's like, you check it, okay, that's cool, whatever. But like, I really like this a lot. So for me, like, I played Melee way after the fact. I remember when Melee came out, I didn't have a GameCube, but a friend of mine got GameCube, and of course we played it a lot. And I remember sitting and like sleeping over, and we just stayed up like trying to do what we could to unlock all the characters. I remember like going onto GameFAQs and trying to read, and it was like very early in the game's release, so you didn't really know how to get all of the characters. But we did what we could to unlock them. But prior to that, and even after playing Melee, 64 was still like my Smash for the longest time, not owning a GameCube until... I don't think I had a GameCube until the Wii came out. I did one of those, right? Like I got the Wii day one, but then I got a GameCube after. So 64, I played a ton of. The weird thing is I have now like adjusted to Melee and then of course Smash Ultimate. So a lot of my muscle memory is, I'm still like trying to do C-stick moves that I can't do because the C-stick were jump actions.
That would, All right, I'm not going to be good at this.
You can remap some things and you can tweak the controls so they work for you, but if you rely on the C-stick for like your smash attacks and stuff, it's a different beast. I want to see if, I don't know. I've been looking at different N64 controllers. There's one by the people who made that really cool Dreamcast controller. They make one now that's like, it looks more like a DualShock, but it's an N64 controller. It looks kind of like DualShock, but it's a bit thicker. But the D-pad and joystick positioning are like the Switch Pro controller, Xbox style. Anyway, but I jumped into this with the 8-bit do SN30 Pro Plus, so it is more DualShock-esque. And I thought it still worked really well. Again, though, like that C-stick thing, I couldn't really break that habit. It is Smash 64 Plus. So you have this expanded roster that adds in Lucas, Wolf, Ganondorf, Wario, Marth, Young Link, Dr. Mario, Dark Samus, Falco, Bowser, Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day. There might be others I'm forgetting now. I can't remember. But you have all these characters added in. You have 5 pages of stages to choose from. So you have the original stages. They've also retooled the original stages so that you have, not for everyone, but for some, you have the Omega option and you have the final destination option for those, just like you would in modern Smash. Which is cool seeing some of those 64 levels still, because even though they've been remade in Smash Ultimate, they're remade with high definition assets. These are like the original 64, right? So they're like almost demakes in a way. It's cool. Well, they're not demakes. They're the original ones, but they're like retooled. There are demakes of other stages. So like the Persona 5 stage from Smash Ultimate has been demade into this. Some other ones from Melee and Brawl have been demade into this. They have New Pork City from Smash Brawl demade into this like smaller version that still plays music from Mother 3. But all of the music is done in the N64 sound font stuff. So it's like,
that's so cool.
It's this weird, like, cool little. I mean, it's a demake, right? It feels like that, plays like that. One of the stages, my favorite one, I think, was there's a basketball stage where you're playing on a basketball court, and the only way to get a KO, you actually don't get KOs. You just have them kill themselves. So there's basketball nets on either side of the stage, right and left, and then above them, there's 2 Donkey Kong arrow barrels pointing straight down. Their ceiling is very low, so you have to attack and then hit them into the ceiling or into one of the barrels, so the barrel shoots them down, but it counts as a TKO, not a KO. So yeah, I was hoping, because there's a scoreboard in the background, I was hoping to see the scoreboard go up as I got kills, but you're technically subtracting from them rather than adding to you. So it didn't work that way. But the neat thing about that one was it's a basketball court, and then it shuffles through N64 sports game music. So there's songs from NBA Jam, songs from Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball. That was really neat. And it was like, I started to think like how else this could expand and like what other things they could do, because they're still working on it. There's still like empty spaces on some of those pages where they're going to build more stages. This is just a 1.0 release. I believe they're still intending to add more characters, more stages. The other neat thing is playing as some of these characters that would show up in later games. Obviously, we've seen like how the characters from the original Smash have evolved to meet, the new gameplay style and gameplay mechanics of newer Smash games. But to see one pushed backward, like I was big into Marth in both Melee and Brawl and Wii U, and Marth, there's a lot of like muscle memory for me there. So taking him back there, like I'm trying to do the like, I don't know if you guys know Marth's sword attacks where his side B, you like start it and it's like blue color, and then depending on which way you push as you're doing it, he either does an upswing or a down stab or whatever it is. All of that's in there, like with the same color sweeps and everything. It's really cool how they incorporate later mechanics into the 64 engine. I did play around with the option to swap costumes or swap character types. So depending on if it's a character from the original 64 roster, as you're choosing it, you can hit down on the D-pad and it'll swap them into polygon mode. So you're playing as like Polygon Mario or Polygon Kirby.
Nice.
I'm sorry, Polygon Team Kirby. Characters like Bowser who have been added, you also just have a playable Giga Bowser for some reason. Mario, you can swap to Metal Mario. I forget some of the other ones, but that was neat. You can also, like the Retronauts piece mentioned, you can swap between regional differences. I didn't notice much. Like it almost looks like some of the characters when you would hit left on the D-pad to switch to the Japanese version, or I think it's up depending on the character to switch to the European version. Some of them seem like they got like 5 pixels taller, maybe. Like I couldn't really tell what was changing in some of them. I know one of them swapped, like Jigglypuff's name swapped when I swapped it to Japanese, but visually it didn't look any different.
Question.
Yes.
If he did that to Kirby, did he go from angry to happy?
I was trying to notice a difference in Kirby and couldn't fully tell.
Okay.
But something shifted. But I was kind of jumping through all of them to see like what's different. And I think, if that's how he was in the original Smash,
no,
for
just
64.
More so just the artwork. Like America made him angry all the time on the box art.
Yeah.
And Japan, he's always happy. So I didn't know if they like represented that in this.
When you do the change, only the 3D model at the bottom that's like bouncing and spinning changes. The actual like character art from the menu select didn't change.
Okay.
But I can't, just a really cool demake of certain things. Like they're keeping that game alive in a new way that I don't know. I hope that it stays alive and doesn't get shut down because it's a cool project. But at least in this version, I think they've done a lot of really neat things. And yeah, I mean, Dr. Mario still has a lot of his weird little spins and things. Like things you expect of these characters still work, which, if you learn how to play them in later games, you can go back. Lucas felt a little weird, but I don't know. Have you guys... Is there a game like that you feel like could use a revival or a remix in a way that, like, Smash is such a unique game, but like, I don't know, like we hear about like the Tecmo Bowl stuff where people still update that with modern rosters, to put like the 2021 football season into a 1988 game. I don't know. Like I could see like a Mario Golf or like a Mario Kart 64. Like that would be a neat project to see retooled.
I got 2 answers for you.
Yeah.
One, you reminded me of the Tecmo Bowl. The original NFL Street people will still put up the original or put up ways to customize the athletes to attributes and stuff like that for current players. And then number 2, WWF No Mercy.
Yeah,
that actually still does have some modding being done to it and stuff like that. But those are the two. That. Like, if I'm going to go back to either one, it's going to be one of those two.
I also kind of have 2 answers. Pokemon Stadium, update that roster.
Oh my god, dude.
We just need a new Pokemon Stadium. I mean, sure, you can update it, but I'll spend $60 on a new Pokemon Stadium, most likely.
There was just something about the low poly and then having that announcer, and it was simple, but yet the characters had custom animations. They didn't all share the same exact animation all the time. That's what I really enjoyed about that. And as you watch it now, like anything related to it, it's just kind of feels a little phoned in. And I get it. There's a lot of Pokemon. You don't want to do all that animation, copy paste some things. But
yeah,
there was just something about that back then. There's some charm. Plus the mini games. Like, I'm not talking about just the fighting, but like you can probably add a mini game or 2 or update some of those models or throw in some new ones. I mean.
Stadium wasn't one of the ones coming to the N64 stuff for Switch, is it?
I don't remember seeing it.
I remember Snap, but I don't remember Stadium. I'm going to pull it up now. I'll see what I can find. But yeah.
And the other one... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, you're talking about the charm of seeing the N64 stuff. I mean, remember back then, it was just the maybe 10-frame attack sequence on GBA, and then you saw it on N64 on a big screen for the first time. It was like, holy shit. This is awesome.
Especially if it was like your own Pokemon from your cartridge.
Yeah.
But
like, seeing like Flamethrower or what are the flame attacks from Charizard on GBA versus N64 was like, whoa.
Oh, and they should also be able to like add new thumbnails for the trainers instead of just having just the one. I mean, I like that old artwork, but if you can expand on that too, that would
They're
be
not very good at expanding on that stuff. Look at Pokemon Unite and go.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware. But fans, I trust, could do it.
Right, right.
And my other answer, oddly, Gauntlet Dark Legacy.
That's the 64 one or no?
I mean, it was originally arcade, made it to 64, got ported to GameCube, might be on PS2 and Xbox. But yes, I thought that would, because they had a lot of characters you could unlock with passwords or just through progress of the game. And I thought that was really cool. And like depending on the class, and then like you pick the color, like that would also determine like its overall style. But I think it would be cool to throw in neat little skins here and there, maybe from other games. Maybe you have like a Kratos or a Link, or maybe a Marth, or
give me Bayonetta and let me attack with my hair. I don't even need a weapon.
Yes. There you go. Something like that. I just thought, or like Final Fantasy classes thrown in there or something.
Jeez, you could probably build a whole Gauntlet game around Final Fantasy characters if you wanted to.
I've been waiting for that, so.
Well, too bad. Gauntlet had that. Was it PS3 or PS4? They had that new one, and I think bombed.
Gauntlet, I don't remember anything past OG Xbox.
There was a newer one they tried to release.
Wait,
There was the one. Yeah, Mark played it, and I ended up buying it on Steam, I think. It was fine.
That's not bad. I think that's
pretty good. But I think critically it was like fine. It was like a good, not perfect, but good game. I just don't think it sold well. Hence, bombed at the box office, and you're never going to see that franchise for a long time.
Yeah, I think it was probably not that great of marketing. And
sure, it's probably the publisher's fault it didn't sell, but
and sure. I think just a lot of people, it just wasn't in their radar anymore at this point. But I think it was cool because it was the people that did Magica. If you ever played those, highly recommend those games. They're always on sale, super cheap. But they're the ones like they developed it, and then WB published it. So maybe there's still something there in the future.
And now
we'll see.
WB Games is who knows where. So who knows where that franchise is?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I think one that would be cool. Matt, I'll give you a second to just practice rolling your eyes and your head. But one that you could play straight through in one sequence with the same mechanics and everything. Castlevania 1 and 2, since they're directly related. But if you could somehow incorporate that into the whole, I think that'd be a really neat.
Well, if they fan make it, they can take away the core.
That's right. They
and
could
let
tweak
you
it. They
go
could add
through a
gameplay
corridor or
improvements.
something.
You know, I didn't consider other consoles with this. That being said, Fuse.
The Insomniac game?
Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo.
Oh,
Fuse
got
that
it, okay.
with Hyperstone Heist. So you have all those levels, all those bosses,
Yes.
with Mode 7 still intact,
Yeah. Yes, that'd be very good.
but on Super Nintendo, sorry.
Because I think even I don't know if you guys caught the Digital Foundry retro of F-Zero recently. Mark, I know you watched it. Yeah,
Mhm.
he talked about the final GBA game or one of those GBA games that kind of like reimagined all of the levels. Like, yeah, we need something like that for everything. Put Mother 2 and Mother 3 all in one giant game. Just
That'd be cool.
yeah. Yeah. Speaking of games that smash everything together and put everything in one game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has its final character reveal this week in a presentation. Tomorrow night, October 5th. Night, right? It's late, right? 6 p.m., something like that, 5 p.m.?
Sounds right.
So the final character will be revealed. This is the last time in a long time that we will be able to sit on this podcast and make guesses at who the final character or who the next Smash character will be. And I think we got away from trying to guess in an actual segment on the show for a while, but what better time than now, right? So just no elaborate. I mean, you can elaborate like moveset and things like that, but no fanfare. Just one guess from each of us. Who is it?
Before you say that guess, I think it's an early boy.
Oh, what time?
Catch the stream. This is coming from GameSpot. Catch the stream on October 5th at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Oh, and then in their article, the official Nintendo of America Twitter account, tune in 10/5 at 7 a.m. Pacific for the reveal presentation of the final Super Smash Bros. Character.
Alrighty.
So,
then.
you're in the morning.
Yeah, okay. Then yeah, tomorrow morning.
People are in for a rude awakening when they wake up.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Well,
not all of them. Some of them.
Someone's going to be mad.
Mark, who's it going to be?
My brain is still fixated on this, so I'm just going to say Gino.
All right, Gino. Matt, who's it going to be?
Wow.
That's my second
I
one.
think Matt is correct. I think if Matt is wrong, Mark is correct. And knowing that, I think it's Discoon, the Famicom Disk System mascot.
You want to piss off everyone. That's what you do.
Isn't that an assist trophy?
So it's wah.
It might have been just a trophy before. I think that's what I'm thinking
I
of.
think he might show up as like a little sticker. I know he's he's one of the like character icons you can pick for your character or whatever, but I thought about it and I think like, you know, he could do some little punches and stuff. He could shoot Famicom sprites out of his body at people in his final smash. He could suck everybody up into a disc writing system and spit them back out as Famicom discs at the screen. Done.
If it's not wah, my other guess would have been that still that Shin Megami Tensei crossover. I don't know who the character will still be. I don't know if they'll go the main protagonist in 5 or like a mascot character like a Jack Frost or whatever. But as far as they're trying to incorporate like stage, tracks, the franchise as a cross. I still think Shin Megami Tensei 5 is still, or I guess Shin Megami Tensei in general is still my guess.
Yeah. Dang. I'm thinking about it because now you got me thinking about other fall releases and like what else could it be? Like they still have Advance Wars. For a moment I thought maybe there's a weird character showing up in the new Metroid game this week that maybe they introduced like a brand new character no one's ever seen. I think Waluigi's the one where even if it happens, people who didn't want him are still like, yeah, all right.
No one's going to be happy. You can't please everyone with this one because someone's going to be mad.
Oh, I know some people
Waluigi,
that would love it.
Yeah,
oh,
but with Waluigi,
like
that was the one like from the beginning that it was like, hey, this will never happen. So I think if it does, because this pack also added a 6th character, right? Like this is technically a bonus from what we expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he was, I think. Yeah, and like, he said no, it wouldn't happen. And then this pack came out with a 6th character. And remember, you said the same thing about Ridley, right?
Yeah.
Then
That's why I
Nintendo's
feel-
There's a goddamn piranha plant as a selectable character. We can make Waluigi happen.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I went wild in my head. I was like, are they going to do something to... Because I feel like all of the DLC, especially this second round, has really expanded the like move sets of the characters and what you expect in a Smash Brothers character. So I was like, well, maybe they do something weird with that. Isn't it an Advanced Wars character that can drive a tank?
Remember senioritis, like in high school and for some of us, final years of college, where you just didn't want to do anything anymore because you knew the end was near?
Yeah.
You don't have to do much Waluigi, I don't think. I think, obviously, you have to balance and program some moves, but you don't have to do like a dumb whole new system that you had to do with Steve from Minecraft or anything like that. And then for Kirby's design, all you have to do is throw him on a purple hat. You don't have to do anything special there.
Purple hat and he hits a tennis ball.
Yeah, boom.
Done. Yeah. But we'll find out. And then that's it. When do you think the next Smash Brothers game is?
Ooh.
Probably it's probably with all those Switch 4K development kits that are out in the wild.
Right.
I think even beyond that.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we see another Smash.
I think if anything, yeah, they would just like upgrade this one and like maybe add some
I don't know what
little features, but
I don't think there is a scenario where you can make another Smash Bros. And not have it everyone's here. And then just hearing the stories of like all the copywriting they had to do, like all the rights they had to get internationally for all the music and the character, like that sounds like a headache that I think should be more well known. And I think I'm with Mark. I think you just kind of like maybe not remaster it, but like port it over, maybe give a bump in specs in terms of look if it's needed, and maybe do another character pack with it.
I think if they were to do the next in the series, I think they have to like ease people in knowing like, hey, this is gonna be smaller than before, and it's probably gonna be more in-house, like not as many guest fighters. I think maybe, and who knows, that might end the era of, hey, let's add guest characters to our fighting games.
Yeah, but they just make everyone mad, and I just think that's a bad PR move at that point.
They're gonna be mad no matter what. Are you kidding me?
True, but I feel like people would be less. No, because they'll be like, Nintendo can't even make a new game. I was gonna say, I think people would be less.
Even
mad
with new games, they're still mad.
I know. There's.
I can't wait to hear how many people are. Actually, I don't hear it anymore anyway. But I'm excited for how many people are going to be mad that Metroid Dread came out. It's like everyone wanted Metroid Dread since 2006 or whenever that DS game showed up. Now they got it, and how dare you? You ruined it.
This isn't
you
Prime.
ruined it. Like you knew what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I just kind of want Sakurai to do something real dumb at the end of this, as a ritual to be like, I'm done. He puts a pillow down on the desk and just collapses on it. I feel like that would be great.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I want him to make other games. I want to see what else he can do. His talk with Harada, I was like, yeah, I love Smash, but like these days I play Smash when a new character comes out. I will run through the classic mode with them and do a little bit more, and then that's kind of it. I still use it as a palate cleanser from time to time where I'm like, I don't know what to play, and I play Smash, and then whichever character I kind of gravitate towards, I end up jumping into that series or something. But yeah.
I mean, I haven't picked up Smash in over a year. I like the whole hype with the new character, and even when a new character I really want to play comes out, I still don't play as them. Like I should have been playing with Sephiroth for months already, but I haven't even bought him yet.
Yeah, it's. I think also the last year didn't help at all. Like if that game had like an online mode that I felt like comfortable playing, repeatedly, maybe. But the last time I tried to do online, it was Mark and I, and it was not. We were fine. It was fine, but like we had to go through so many stupid hoops to get it to work.
Yeah,
and
my friend streamed it for a little bit this year, and that motivated me to get like a Ethernet port for it, and that was
better.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty okay. But I only play it with friends. Like I rarely play it by myself. I might here and there just to like shake off the rust. But yeah, that's
the thing. Like if we were doing more regular like physical hangouts, maybe. But your boy's a real recluse now, so I'm still cutting my fingernails. But like I'm basically on that path of like live inside, don't do it. So yeah. Anyway, in time, I suppose we'll find out. I'm excited to see. I hope Matt's wrong, but I think Matt's right. I'd like it to be something surprising and interesting. You know what I mean? I hope that no one sees it coming at all.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a Pokemon. I don't want it to be whatever. But like, I don't know what other
Fire Emblem character.
Oh God, yeah. Unless they actually just make it. What if it's Master Hand?
It would be kind of lackluster. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it would be for sure, but it kind of
makes sense. But
yeah, story wise,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Something's gonna be mad.
What if it's a Mortal Kombat 1 style sprite of Sakurai, where it's just stop motion?
That would be funny.
I would buy it.
That would be funny.
I would buy it. I would play Smash again.
Just like a mishmash of different Nintendo moves.
Oh, that'd be so good. Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow. We're gonna take a break. When we get back, we've got the future of Bloodborne, when demos go wrong, and how to break your mister. Right after this. Mark, you shared a website link to GOG.com with me this week. The release of Blood Omen Legacy of Kane, out now on GOG, inspired me to play that on PSP. After you've talked about those games for a super long time, but I never remembered this one, Legacy of Kane, or Blood Omen Legacy of Kane. I remembered Soul Reaver and whatever that other one was, but I remember them being the 3D like action games that Crystal Dynamics put out. Not this, which is, not unlike Hyper Light Drifter. It's a top-down Zelda game set in this super cool world. The world is called Nosgoth. So how have I never played this before? You play as a vampire who you can either swing your sword to kill your enemies, or you can swing it once to put them into a state of daze, and then you can hit circle to drink their blood from across the room nearly and refill your health, which rules. I played a good bit of this game the other night and then the day after. And yeah, I mean, it seems like it's really deep in terms of like story and lore and what they've added to it. The mechanics are like so early PS2 or PS1, like that, like you've got spells you can equip. They packed so much into this game. Like there's this huge overworld, like seeing how it's all stitched together, like all of these little sections of the map, the lore, in Zelda fashion, like you need to go find 9 pillars of something. You find these pillars that have 9 elements attached to them, or 9 kind of, I don't even know what to call them.
They have like guardians, like one for each pillar that represents an element of something. And they're not. It's not the elements that you think either. It's not like fire, water. I mean, there is fire, but it's like mind and death and shit like that. Very obscure.
It had like that part to it, the item equipping, and you have like the option to equip different spells, different like consumables, things like that. The one thing I did not realize for the way too long is that I had unlocked a spell to light up a room. Mm-hmm. So I'm wandering around this super dark dungeon, just getting attacked by spikes and things like floating rocks in the room and things like that. But it's cool, man. It's like just such a cool idea for a game, and it reminds me of Symphony of the Night in the idea that like they took something that was inherently an old idea and they used new technology of the PlayStation to bring it to life in ways they could not have done in a previous generation. And I think that was the thing I'm most impressed by about playing this.
Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely gave me like, just like the old school 90s like PC vibes, like Diablo 1 type aesthetic. And what was really cool about it was like it has a narrative, like Kane will explain just about everything to you. There's not much text that you're reading. It's all voice, which I think is cool because I feel like that keeps your attention a little more. You can't just skim through something. You just have to listen to him talk about it. But at the same time, there is still like environmental storytelling with it. Like they kind of just throw you in the beginning. You're just a knight in this tavern, and they're like, "We don't want to serve you. Like, get out." And even though you're noble, and then you leave the tavern, and then you get jumped, and that can be as quick as you want, or you can make it last. I fought maybe like, because understanding the hitboxes or whatever, I think I was able to fight like 4 enemies before I fell. And then all of a sudden,
I got
boom,
one,
vampire.
And I was dead, and I was like, oh, wait, is that an intentional game over? Or is it, okay, yeah.
And then just seeing yourself transform, it's just like, all right, this is my life now. And then you just go through it. I think that's pretty cool. And then, there's like an explanation for everything. Like, trying to navigating the menu is a little primitive. It's a little obscure. It's cool to look at, but it's a little confusing because, again, there's not much text. Everything.
Does it work with mouse on PC?
I don't know. I'm using the Xbox controller when I'm playing it. I think I have to remap some things because, like go into the menu to equip stuff, I have to click in the right stick. So might change that.
The original PlayStation stuff is very weird. Like, it's like R1, what is it? Start actually opens your equipped menu, but select opens your pause menu to like look at the world map.
Okay.
Look at like configuration and things like that.
Yeah, mine's all over the place.
R1, R2, and triangle are your mini menus for each spell thing that you equip. Mm-hmm. L1 zooms in and out of the character. L2 pulls back to a high level map with like an arrow pointing at where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what else, but yeah, it's
like
different.
The vibe of the game, it definitely captures that time where it was like, being considered like a nerd into like dark fantasy and stuff wasn't really like in the limelight ever.
No, not at all.
like playing this game kind of makes you feel like, you
A
know,
nerd.
that whole like stereotype of being just like a neckbeard in the basement, listening to your hair metal or Slayer or something, and just like writing your own little D&D campaigns with your friends, and then your parents look upon you with disappointment.
Well, it's fun that you
thing.
should mention that, because I figured if I was gonna go 1996, I would go 1996, and I coupled this with a revisiting of the fantastic 1996 KoYan'n album.
Yeah.
Life is Peachy.
Is that the one with Twist on it?
Yeah, I think Twist is the opener. Yeah.
Love that song.
But that came out a month before this game did. So I figured if I were a person who looked like I do in 1996, I probably would have been listening to Life is Peachy by KoYan'n, being really upset at everybody around me, and playing in the world of Nosgoth on my hot new PlayStation while I drove, I don't know, a Civic.
Maybe have those posters made out of felt, but you color in the white parts.
Yeah.
And
there's like a clown.
Have like a black light above it.
I like playing this. I fully embraced like I'm standing there's a lot of leather in the back part of this Hot Topic. Like that's where I went with this, and it felt good to kind of go back. Not that I was ever there fully, but you kind of dance around the edges of it, and it felt like that. It was a time.
In the game, did you use like the secondary weapon that you get? They're like throwing stars.
Accidentally, yeah, because I couldn't figure out how to not equip them at first, because I accidentally equipped them, and then I couldn't remember which button was what, and then
those things are godlike. Like you just you throw one, and then you keep this loud explosion that spikes the audio, and the enemy just turns into pixels. It just dusts away.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. Playing that, I really liked what I played. It makes me actually, so playing it though on the PSP, it's a very small screen, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Not only do you have this like big world, but you have the sidebar that's kind of always there with your status menus, and trying to jump between. I probably should have just pulled it up on an iPad, but trying to jump between, because the PSP version has its manual built in the suspend menu. But looking through that on a tiny screen and trying to really take in the whole KoYan'ness of the night, it was, I was somewhere. So I ended up the day after getting my PSP Go dock plugged into the CRT, and then I popped the PSP Go into that. I went full on. Like, I played this like it was 1996 and got that running on the TV, so it felt like I'm playing a PS1 game, and that was awesome. But the setup for that is a nightmare. You've got to like plug the PSP Go and a DualShock 3 into a PlayStation 3, go into menus. It's just so many steps to get a controller to pair with that. And then the controller died because I hadn't turned on the DualShock 3 in probably a year. I don't know. So I played around with that for a bit, and then this is going to segue into just a story about being an idiot, and then I'll stop talking for a while. But I did that. I loved it. It's still, I have the PSP still like up above the TV, so I can easily swap between those component cables and jump back in. But then it reminded me that PlayStation is coming to the Mister at some point, maybe this year if we're lucky. But like the development on that core is going along after some, temporary setbacks from the original work on the project ending, and now we have a new developer who's working on it. But then I remembered I bought that PlayStation Classic a few years back, and I had those USB PS1 controllers, and I was like, oh, I should see if they work with the Mister. Plug those in, fully works. Feels great too. So that's awesome. It's wired, which is a little but I'm okay with it because I can just sit closer and get that full PlayStation 1 experience when I need it. Well, then, being back in the Mister again, I was like, it's been a while since I've updated this thing. Let me update this thing. So I did that, got a lot of things updated. It's cool. I was sending you guys some pictures of, like, being able to do the GBA 2-player stuff now, and some changes, and then that led me to jump back into Metroid 1, because I've never beat Metroid 1, and I was like, maybe I should do that before Dread comes out, and playing it like the old school way with no save states, passwords only, like doing all that stuff. Trying to draw out a map by myself. Yeah. And then I bring it to plug it all back in and get it set back up on the CRT, because I had to take it upstairs to update it, to plug it into Ethernet. And I put it back on the TV, and Metroid sounds weird. And I'm like, okay, maybe with the update, something happened with the NES core. I'll go read the forums later, or the Discord, to see if something's up with that. I need to do another pass. Then I switch over. I'm like, I was recently playing Rondo of Blood on it, so I know all the sound there. I can use that as my gauge. I do that, and sound is just jacked. The songs sound awful. I barely hear the game, and I'm like, what is happening? So I switch, and I do output to the TV, because it was working on the LCD upstairs. So I'm like, well, maybe try the HD output and see if maybe something's up with the CRT's audio. Audio seems fine, but low on the OLED. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. I kind of resigned to, I probably need to buy new cables, or maybe I fried the IO board doing something. I don't know what, but I don't know. Maybe too much unplug, replug. Then I found out that I'm an idiot who, while carrying back everything down, I have a keyboard for the Mister, and I guess I gripped it from the corner while the Mister was still active, and I pushed the volume down button, and on the main Mister menu, there's a global volume slider that I put to basically 0, and that was I bumped that back up, good as new. So welcome to Idiot Land. This
Hey, at least you didn't buy the cables, though, right?
I was close. I almost grabbed it. I mean, granted, the cable, I knew what I would have needed. It's like a 3.5 millimeter to RCA, would have been $7 or something. And also the one that I have, it's a really tight fit on the back of the CRT. So every time I do unplug it, I feel like I'm going to destroy it. So maybe I should buy a new one anyway. But yeah, that tons of fun. When's the last time you guys did an idiot thing with hardware or technology?
I'm surprised my computer's still working.
I can't remember.
Mark, hit me.
No, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like excuse me, my computer just finds a way to just be screwy sometimes. Whenever I'm playing like a game on Steam or something, or trying to like mess with the computer so the game can run fine. But I don't think it's ever turned into a thing where it's like, oh, duh, this. What was it? I think there's a game that was just running too well, and it couldn't handle that. So I had to like lower the frame rate to 30 frames so it wouldn't crash. And it's like, all right.
That's the game's fault, though. That's not PC.
Right. And so I mean, I would just run stuff like that. But I don't know. Every time I feel like I download something safe, maybe it's from the Windows Store, maybe it's from like an official page, I still feel like I'm messing up something in the long run, and then something just doesn't load the way that it should, or something got updated, and it's just like, crap, now I gotta remove the icon from my taskbar because it's just a blank icon now. I gotta reapply it to my taskbar. iTunes does that every time. It's annoying. But it's not just iTunes, but that's the one that does it the most. I don't know. Just, I feel like I just do nothing, and still I find ways to have hiccups in here. I don't know if it's actually me.
Hey man, again, sometimes you hold the volume button on your stupid keyboard like a stupid idiot, and
I did. It's been over a year because I did this when I was still at my parents' house, but I don't remember the exact context. I can't remember if like I was trying to do something like card game, and it was like my mouse just kept recentering itself, I think it was, or shooting to the corner. and I was like, what the hell is going on? I was trying to do all this troubleshooting with mouse properties, making sure my mouse worked, all that kind of stuff. And then I realized my DualShock was still plugged in, and for some reason, the mouse was resetting because it was, I think, thinking the touchpad on the DualShock was a trackpad of some kind.
Oh my god! Yeah,
It was something, I can't remember specifically what it was, but it was something along those lines. Where like for like a day, I was fighting all this mouse stuff, and just DualShock was plugged in. As soon as I unplugged it, great.
It's the way of the game.
Love it.
Anyway, Blood Omen, very good game. Everyone should play that. Now I'm like, do I play it on PS3 on the big screen, or do I keep playing through PSP on the CRT? I'm conflicted now with.
Funny thing about that game, when I played it the first time, I think it was last year or something. I got that off of a site that was like, "Hey, this is shovelware. Like this is freeware."
Oh wow.
Yeah, like you could play it in the browser or something. It didn't seem like it was a sketchy, "Hey, pirate this game" thing. It was like,
Yeah.
no, this is abandoned. This is like publicly like free domain or something like that. That's
because maybe the old PC port of it, because it was originally PlayStation in '96, and I think '97 is when it hit PC.
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't too different. I just think that some of the videos didn't load properly, or for like the cutscenes or something like that. So whatever, I don't mind paying like $6
No, yeah,
for this, and I actually have it like work pretty well and have good controller support.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really, really good game. So far, we'll see
Yeah.
how it shakes out. But and Matt, you've been shaking out Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I finally, after beating 15, probably not too many hours after we finished recording last week, it was time to jump into a new project, and still didn't buy Deathloop, so I instead went to Dark Souls 3, which funny enough, I had bought before playing Dark Souls 2. So it's been sitting there because it got on sale, at least the base game. I might regret that purchase in a few weeks if I decide to do DLC. But anyway, no, I've been putting off this game. I'll get into that here in a little bit because I kind of want that to be our topic around this game. But yeah, dude, this game, I know it's following the foots of Bloodborne, but dude, I think if you're looking for a Bloodborne 2 that's not in Yarnum and has a lot of Dark Souls aesthetic and systems, I think this is it. Like, honestly, it's not like one specific thing either. It's like that the way the game has this weird shine to it. Like with the graphics, it's the movement. Obviously they probably used the same system because Dark Souls 1 and 2 were built for PS3, Xbox 360. Bloodborne, of course, on PS4, and then this is the first of that generation. So I'm sure it's a lot of the the engine, that's the word I'm looking for. There's a lot of the engine work, I'm sure, is the same. They brought that over to Dark Souls 3, but like, yeah, it has this like weird glossy shine. Not weird, but like, it has this like glossy shine I remember from Bloodborne. The movement feels very similar to Bloodborne. It's not as rigid as Dark Souls 1 and 2 is. The sound effects from like hitting a creature or a person has that slash of Bloodborne sound. Even the blood splatter, like, all the games have blood splatter and stuff. Like, I don't know, just the way the sound and the way it splatters and blood and Bloodborne, it's crazy. Early on too, like it tricked my brain because I was trying to do the hit back system from Bloodborne to regain some health just out of like habit from the way I was dodging and ducking. And I think that's one of the key things with this. Like, with the way the movement's so free, I've been not shield up, taking hits, and using my stamina. It's been more, let me roll out of the way, because that's what I did in Bloodborne, and hit you. And I think just because I was playing like that, I naturally started thinking I could get my health back by hitting someone. And that was not the case, so...
Do you think that was more of a like reaction to the reception of Bloodborne or of Dark Souls 2? Like, does this feel like it was more course correcting or more embracing what newness came from Bloodborne?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think just the problem with 2 to 3 or 1 to 2, I don't think 2 is a bad game. I just think there was some, at least in Scholar of the First Sin, like I said, that game's weird because there's two it's the same game, but not at the same time because enemy placement and enemy types in certain areas are different. But in terms of, in Scholar of the First Sin, I just thought something like enemy placement was weird. And it made it unnecessary. Like, some of that felt like cheap tough other than tough in a way, but I don't know. I don't know. I just think it was just a they had to update the engine for PS4 for Bloodborne, and it just took that engine and applied it to Dark Souls 3. And I think that's why you're getting a lot of what it is. I don't think it's necessarily a reaction to anything. I think just having Miyazaki on board got the ones that did not like Dark Souls 2, especially at first before Scholar came out, back on board and had some restored faith of, well, let me at least try it. And yeah, I guess Bloodborne doing so well, I think had some inspiration behind it, because like some of the enemies and some of the situations you walk into in different towns, like there's the Undead Settlement, I believe is the name of a town, has a very Yarnum feel to it, even to the point where there's a giant bonfire in the middle of the town with a lot of enemies around it. That felt very familiar to the open of Bloodborne. So I don't know. Obviously I think they took some inspiration and from their successes with Bloodborne, but I just think it was just a victim, not a victim, but it just happened to be that they probably used the same engine from Bloodborne, and a lot of that came with it, for better or for worse. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna get into Dark Souls 2 too much because I've talked. Things have not changed terribly much from 1 and 2 and Bloodborne. Sekiro is the only one that sticks out differently at this point. But I will say that this game, 2 major changes I've seen early in my first 7 or so hours of this game. This game has quickly become the king of not everything seems as it is. Lots of enemies transforming, just regular enemies transforming as you start to approach them into something completely different from what you've seen before. Boss fights, a lot of changing movesets in the middle of a boss fight, or even transformations again in the middle of a boss fight. And also, I've already seen quite early they're not really dead yet. That you did not see a lot in Dark Souls 1 or 2 but you started to see some of that in Bloodborne. But I think already they're leaning on the different movesets, transformations, that kind of stuff very early on in Dark Souls 3. I have a feeling it's going to be a big theme. Like, even the tutorial boss had a big change in the middle of said boss fight. So yeah, I think that's going to be a theme going forward. And then the other big difference, Dark Souls 2 had a central hub of Majula that had like 4 different paths out, and then with those paths kind of was like areas that had like your shortcuts and things like that, but it would always like be a linear thing leading to the next area once you were kind of done. This game doesn't even have like a connectivity feel to it. A lot of it is like linear. Now, like Dark Souls 2, like it's linear, but once you get to like an area, there's going to be bonfires and shortcuts and all that good stuff. But like there hasn't been like a returning hub, like you saw in Dark Souls 2 at Majula, or the ever-connected first part of Dark Souls 1 with everything leading back to Firelink. So that caught me a little off guard. I don't hate it, but like at the same time, Dark Souls 1, I think, shines so bright for me because of how interconnected and the fact that you don't have fast travel and, all that stuff's here at the start, which, it's fine. I like it, but I missed, as much as I praise Dark Souls 1 for its level design, I haven't seen it again in any of these games. Bloodborne comes the closest to it, honestly. So Yeah, that's a tiny bit disappointing, but still, I'm having a blast with this game. This game got off to a much better start than Dark Souls 2 for me. I like the gameplay. Like I said, Dark Souls 2, some of the gameplay just felt off. I mean, I got used to it, but once I got into 3, it felt very much like Bloodborne, which I've been very at home with. And yeah, it's a much better start. And like I said, I guess there's a level of confidence in knowing the systems and stuff in these games after so many hours in them. But like I'm like flying through some areas that I probably would have been stuck in if this was the second game of the franchise or whatever. But yeah, no, I'm having a good time. I'm doing my thing. Shout out to Fextra Life. That website is great. I got stuck in a part, and the way they lay out that website with the walkthroughs, like there's like 3 levels of walkthroughs for spoiler purposes. There's just like the game progress route where you can just see the areas that like an expected playthrough is supposed to go to. There is like another kind of walkthrough that just has like bullet points of what you should be doing in these areas, and then like the detailed one. A mix of the game progress route and the small bullet point walkthrough helped me figure out where to go next. So yeah, that website's incredible. Not just for like walkthroughs, because you can get a walkthrough anywhere, but the way they do non-spoiler stuff is great. And that was the way in, I think, all their games. I know I used that stuff in Dark Souls 2 a bit towards the end. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like I said, this game doesn't like borrow a mechanic per se from Bloodborne, but like it's weird to think like this could be like the Bloodborne 2, but in a way, Bloodborne's still the step brother of this because you know it's the totally different franchise. There's different systems there, but like Bloodborne did take one of the key aspects of Dark Souls that Sekiro did not do, and that is the souls. They just happen to be blood echoes in Bloodborne. And that makes me think, like, is there like a mechanic or a system or something that a game, or I guess a developer or publisher of said game took to another game that's under their umbrella? Or sorry, another franchise, I should say. Or IP. IP.
I mean, the aforementioned Sakurai taking the menus from every game he's made and putting them into every other game. I think that's partially one. But,
I had another answer. I had a feeling someone might have said it, though, so I don't feel bad taking it. If you all are thinking.
Go ahead. My mind went to sports games, so hit me.
The fighting system from Batman in other WB games, aka Lord of the Rings, Shadow Mordor specifically, and Mad Max.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. Because it also, like, I think worked really well in there too. It's one thing to like do it, but yeah.
Now, if only they would do something with that Nemesis system, but you know,
right?
Yeah. There's rumor that there's something coming with that.
I hope better.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting on it.
I don't know. I'm not sure about mechanic exactly, but I like that. I hope this sticks to the question. Because, like, gameplay mechanic altogether, I think, are still kind of reminiscent of each other. But I like how the devs that worked on Mega Man Zero kind of ran with that concept and took it into Inti Creates with, like, Gunvolt and, what was it, Dragon Marked for Death? Or something like that?
Yeah.
But I like that they're all just, like, side-scrolling action games, and they each kind of have their own elements from Mega Man Zero in different ways.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think Gunvolt kind of, adapts to the bosses that it fights and gains, like, an ability or something from that. And even in, like, Luminous Avenger 9 or whatever that is.
Yeah.
That one even more so. But they all have...
the Chronicles of Gunvolt?
Hmm?
Is that Chronicles of Gunvolt, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But, like, yeah, and then, like, Dragon Marked for Death or whatever, that one has more like RPG mechanic. And then like 0 didn't necessarily have. I mean, you would level up things, but that would more so extend like the power of your weapon, or maybe you can like extend a combo a little bit more, like add a new feature. And I think like Dragon did that a little bit in some ways. I didn't play too much of that, but I don't know if that's necessarily a mechanic or it's just like the spirit of the game. But I liked how that still bled into other things. And
yeah, I think that's a decent answer. It's almost like the same thing I literally just talked about, like how like there's not a specific thing that makes Dark Souls 3 feel so much like Bloodborne, but there's so many details that make it feel like Bloodborne. It's weird. Like you just can't. There's not that one system where it's like, oh, that's the thing. That's the Bloodborne thing. But like,
or
the small sound effects and things.
Or sometimes the engine is the mechanic, right?
Right. I mean, yeah.
Like Valve games, they kind of share like a similar style to, like, they always have like creative ways to use that engine and to but yet they all feel so like they play so differently, but they all still feel very similar, which is, and like kind of how like with Sega with like Monkey Ball and then using that for F-Zero GX, it just like blew my mind to see that completely different now. It's like you can play it like a Monkey Ball game essentially and just rotate the track, not you.
Yeah, no, I think that, and like seeing how certain things get like reworked, or how developers will like learn from their previous work and like do a different like I think back to like old shooters and stuff. Like when you look at a company like Compile, seeing how they evolved like the I mean, all of their shooting games. Like, there's so many things that like there's games they made that were very much like, no, this is this series of games, so there's these rules about it. But then how they'd apply those rules to other shooters in their repertoire or library, I think that stuff's interesting. And then even seeing how like some of those creators would leave and go to different companies through the years, because I think I might be mixing my history up here, but I think some people from Compile left and went to Cave, and like seeing how Cave shooters took things even further with like the bullet hell stuff, but also you still had elements of those old Compile shooters there.
Well, I mean,
seeing those things,
I think you just walked into another answer right there, right? Like just the after the massive success of the local multiplayer in GoldenEye, like bringing that whole system to Perfect Dark. I think that, I mean, yeah, it has a cool camp. I never played it, but from what I know, like, or I've heard, it has a cool campaign, but like everyone talks about the multiplayer much like GoldenEye. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's another potential thing there. That's just a whole gameplay mode, but it's still a system.
I have a half answer, because the game's not out yet, but I know it's a feature. But in Shredder's Revenge, you can still throw the enemies into the screen, and I love that about Turtles in Time. So
yeah, I think that's a good.
Hopefully they use it like for the Super Nintendo Turtles in Time. Hopefully it's used as a legit mechanic to fight a boss. So I really appreciated that.
And then I led off with the hesitancy to come to this game, but like it's this one's bittersweet for me, and I guess it's not as bad as it could have been, because I guess pending delay, Elden Ring is around the corner. But you know, from the time I started Bloodborne, and then you know Sekiro came out, and then I decided I should give Dark Souls a chance. Like I've always had, like even in the middle of it, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, well, when I finish this, I got the next one. Like, you know, whenever it's time, I got the next one. But after this one, there is no, at least with the typical FromSoft formula, there's no next one. Yeah, I can go back to PS2, PS1, or whatever, but like this is it. I mean, I got some DLCs I guess I can go through, but like as far as like core, brand new, haven't really seen a lot of it yet. First time through the main campaign experiences. This is it until Elden Ring. And it's
unless you get a PSP and start burning through some Armored Core games.
Well, that's what I was saying though. Like, I gotta go back, right? But like as much as I'm loving this game, at the same time, it's in the back of my head, like this is it until Elden Ring. Like I'm gonna be that person now. And it's kind of kind of scary in a weird way. And I don't know. Like, I'm enjoying my time, and I want to keep playing it, but I don't want to rush this one. And I just have this hesitancy every time I kind of turn on Dark Souls 3 for a little bit. But like, I don't know. Like, have you guys like ever had that happen where like you're so in love with a franchise or just a specific genre, or that you don't want to like blow through all those games because they're, you want that next one, or just like another reason that I can't think of. But yeah, I know I definitely, like, I was all ready to go for Dark Souls 3 after Dark Souls 2. Like, I think Final Fantasy 15 was a happy accident, and I know working out, but I still don't think, even without Final Fantasy 15, I still don't think I would have jumped right into Dark Souls 3 because of this hesitancy. I wanted to space it out to try to get myself to Elden Ring. So yeah, I don't know. You guys, I don't know. This was a weird week for me with that game.
I think that with Yakuza, I've had that, not in the same respect, but where like the first one I started was Kiwami, because I figured that made the most sense. And then in my head, I was like, I will just play through these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, then like play them in the order of release, because I felt like they probably added mechanics and things through the years that it would feel weird to go backwards. But then I got kind of like not soft locked in the game's fault. It was soft locked because of my approach to how I was playing 1, where I just kind of like, I hit a point where I couldn't get past something. I took a break from it, and then when I went to go return, at that point 0 was out on Game Pass, and I was like, do I want to try and figure out what I was doing in 1, or do I just start 0 from scratch? And then I got far enough in that, and then 7 came out on Game Pass, and then I'm like, well, I really want to play this one. And I call it 7, but like here it's a, basically a fresh start. So for me, it was like, I could just play Like a Dragon and not have to worry about playing the other 7 that had come out at that point. And that kind of whatever, but I'm still like hesitant. Like every time I play Like a Dragon, I'm like, I should stop. I should go back and play I should play the other 6 and then 0, and then I should play it. Like I'm very conflicted internally with that. And I don't know that I've had that with any other franchise where I feel like this kind of burden to play in a certain order or not play in a certain order or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and I don't know if I've ever really had that type of like hesitancy with like, all right, this is last in a series, what am I going to do afterwards? Because I'll either, if I liked it enough to didn't get my fill, probably just replay it. Maybe not right away, but that's one consideration. Sometimes I kind of just feel good that it's the last in a series. Like, I feel like I don't have so much like quote homework to do or whatever, because sometimes it can feel like a chore if you're not liking all of them, maybe like certain ones, but you got to get through that one just for whatever reason. But knowing that there's like nothing for a while, I'm just like, all right, I could focus on other things. That's just how I approach it. And then if I am not wanting it to end, it's not usually particularly because it might be like the last in a series or the last that I've played in the series until, checked off my list. It's probably because if it's a heavy story game and I'm very connected to a character and I know like, all right, I can't go any further than what the game lets me with this relationship or with this story. I really don't want it to end, so maybe you just like hold off completing it until you're ready to like accept that or something. Like, I can't remember if I did that with Red Dead with the first one. Like, I was trying to do my best with everything and with everyone, and then like when it came to the time where you go back to the farm, was trying to make that last as much as I could, or like yeah, just like stuff like that. But my solution as well for when I play something and I don't know what to do after the fact when it comes to like a franchise or whatever, I just try to find that vibe in other games. I just try to see if that's where like the clones for lack of a better term, come in or something like that and try to find those games that will still capture that essence in some way, or they capture some mechanic that you enjoyed that you can. Maybe it's not as good, like it's not going to be, you might have to settle for, I don't know. I can't compare foods, I guess, but if there's like your favorite meal, like you have your favorite pizza from just one pizzeria, but like their closest day or something, or they're remodeling, got to get pizza from somewhere else. It's not the same, but it'll suffice.
Yeah, I think to your first point about like not potentially liking every game in the franchise, I think this one was unique because these games, even Dark Souls 3 I think is 2017, 18. So I don't.
I think 18. I'll bang it, Utah.
Yeah, it's been out for a few years, and all these games are very highly praised. So I think I walked into these thinking pretty confidently I was going to enjoy them, especially if I enjoyed the other one. Kind of like even with Dark Souls 2, everyone was like, "Oh, that's the worst one." Yeah, all right. It's not my favorite one either. It's probably the least favorite of the three, at least right now with my experience, Dark Souls 3. But still, very good game. I would recommend it to people.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that has something to do with it. Like not fearing that I'm going to hate a franchise. Like I did not think I was going to hate Dark Souls 3. I had never had that fear whatsoever.
Right.
And then your second point about going to the next thing, I think that's another part of it too, right? Like, all right, yeah, that's it for FromSoft, but there's other clones, like the Dark Souls clones or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think I know a direction I could go, but at the same time, poor Ratchet and Clank, that PS4 game, man. That was the game after Bloodborne, and as good as that game is, it was the game after Bloodborne, and that had unfortunate timing. So something's gonna be that game, and I feel bad for it.
Man, Mark and I could pick you out a game to play after Dark Souls.
Sure, you're 1 for 1, I guess.
That way you can hate us. No. That way you're not you know what I mean? That way when nothing lives up to it, it's fine because you didn't burn one that you wanted to play anyway. We'll save your life there, and then.
Well, I was thinking maybe that's where I put Deathloop.
Yeah, go with that. I like that idea. And then, but then you roll into Scarlet Nexus or Code Vein or.
Well, that's what I think. I was leaning towards that stuff. I know Mortal Shell's out there. There's stuff like that. I was thinking about maybe trying those. Is it Surge? Oh, what's those two games?
Yeah. Surge.
Heard they're pretty decent.
Yeah, I know I can go that route too. So I don't know, or who knows? I might totally switch gears, go JRPGs. That's the thing now for me.
All right.
Also,
I very much want to play.
I do have Metroid coming out next week, and I'm very excited for that too. So I got stuff to go to. WarioWare. I'll have a new Switch. Maybe I'll connect the LAN and play some Smash. Maybe I'll be playing as Wah.
Oh yeah, good call.
Maybe.
Time will tell.
But yeah, no, I just a little bit of a weird conundrum feelings. I don't know if I've ever really had that before in a franchise game, whatever. This weird back in my mind the entire time as I'm going from bonfire to bonfire, I don't know the number of bonfires left, but that's one less. I have that weird counter in the back of my head now. I don't think I've ever had that really.
It's like back to food. It's always a good analogy for anything. It's like, eating that your favorite dish. You get that last bite. It's like you're happy that you got to eat it all, but at the same time, you hate to see it gone.
Yep. Especially with sweets, man. Anytime I make a good dessert or get a good dessert, I'm like, can I just have another one of those entire... I'm full. I don't need any more, but I really liked... it's tough. Yeah. Do you feel the same way about the Inscription demo this week, Mark? Did you want more of that?
Yes, I did. As soon as we were done recording last week, I found out that the demo dropped that same day. I was like, oh, Okay, yes, I'm going to get into this immediately. I think I might have initially given off different vibes than I intended when trying to write this down.
Yeah, I felt like this had a negative connotation, so I'm
Yeah,
happy
I
to
was-
hear.
Yes,
Very
I didn't mean it like that.
I was waiting for a no to Joe's initial question.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'm
sorry.
very happy.
That's on me. I will gladfully elaborate here. But it's hard to describe the game to anybody because it's just so much going on.
The
So
trailer,
maybe that might be a little whatever.
I don't think the trailer did much for it either. If it makes you feel better.
Right. It's
But
one of
generally, it's like a
it's like if you're
Slay
feeling the
Spire
vibe.
type.
Yeah, like if you're feeling the vibe, you won't care what it's about. You'll jump in. But I think at its core, it is a roguelite card game.
Mm-hmm.
Slay the Spire.
With some puzzles in between. And yeah, like you're just the demo. You get thrown into this cabin. There's this dude in the dark corner. You only see his eyes and his hands, and you have to kind of do as he says. And you go along like this scroll will pop out on the table. That's like your game board. You have this little like figurine that moves down looks like a randomly generated path, and you can kind of see ahead of you where you would land. And sometimes there's a fork in the road, and you can choose what side you want to go down based on what you see ahead of you in that path. It could be new cards, it could be new items to have to use during your card game to help assist you, or other things that make sense to that as you go along it. And in between card game like matches or whatever with the guy or thing, whatever it is, you can go around the cabin and solve some puzzles. Not all of them, but as you're playing the card game, you start to discover clues, you start to find out details, and that pushes you along to solve more puzzles within the cabin, almost like an escape room-ish type scenario. And the weirdest thing is that I can't tell how much of the narrative that you're playing is like, because like the card game has like its own theme kind of going on, but you don't know how much of that plays to the outside of the game, because some of your cards talk to you. A lot of them are animals, but most of the card game itself is like kind of very simple. It's just like a numbers game, like whoever, they have an attack power, they have an HP. Goal is to knock them out, and the way you keep score is that there's a I don't know what to call it. It's I guess it's like an old scale that you would just and it would balance on both sides, and the point is to get more teeth into their cup to dip lower. So you're trying to tip the scale,
okay.
and
Yeah,
and your points are teeth. That's like gold teeth. They just drop into the thing, because the card game is called Bones, I believe. And you're just all these different woodland critters just fighting each other, and they
Christmas?
have
Woodland Christmas critters, or just
almost.
Okay.
But no, but there's wolves, coyotes, ravens, otters, stink bugs, ants, just stuff like that. And then they'll have their own mechanics involved into that to try to get an advantage or whatever. And that's usually the gist of the card game. It's just trying to tip the scale as much as you can, and then move on. But there's a card that you get at first. I think it's a stoat is the name of the animal. Just kind of looks like a ferret or a weasel or something, or like a mongoose. And it's talking to you. It's telling you that like the entity that you're versing is like crazy and all this stuff. And I think the entity can hear the stoat talk to you, because sometimes they'll just be like, quiet you, like, stop talking, blah, 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 or whatever. And then later you get a card that's a stink bug, and stink bug also talks. And sometimes they'll give you hints, because the way the demo works, you can keep going until you beat the boss of the demo. So I have like 90 minutes put into this thing or something like that. So I went through a couple times, lost a couple times, gained more cards as progress between each round. So that was cool. But they're like, "Oh, yeah, you should check the rule book." As like a hint. I was like, "Okay. You can always check the rule book at any time, and it'll tell you, like, if a card has a certain sigil on it, it'll tell you what that sigil does or what it means." It's like, okay. Flipping through it, there's a lot of them. Some of them, like 3 pages were blacked out. It was like ink just spilled everywhere. It's like, all right, can't really read what these do. That's interesting. Keep flipping. There's one page that has red numbers written on it, 273. I was like, huh. So I left the table, went to the other side of the room, and it was like a safe combination. So I put in that number, opened the save combination, got 2 extra cards out of that, and like something else. And then not only did that add to my deck, but it also helped push the story a little forward, because now those cards will talk you further, trying to give you more hints or details as you're playing along. And yeah, the trailer for this game, going back to that real quick, they would show some like live action footage here and there. I can't access any of that. I don't know. That's not in the demo. But it looks like that's something you can access later. Maybe there's a computer or something, or there's just files that you just unlock as you progress. Or progression by failure. Kind of like rogue games do. And that part's interesting too, because when you lose if you either, the gold teeth will go into your thing a little more, the scales tipped your way, or if you run out of cards to draw. And if you lose, the guy grabs you, throws you into this room that looks like it has like an execution chair, like a electric chair, but you're not in the chair. You're kind of just lay down in the room, and there's a light flickering. And he'll take your picture with an old Polaroid. And apparently there's some power to that camera, because he's afraid of it. Like, he doesn't want you taking a picture of him with it, because you try grabbing the camera once, he was like, "Nah, I don't think so." Snatches it from you. So every time you quote die, you get to make a new card. You'll get thrown at you random cards from your deck, and you take different parts from each one to make one custom card. So you can take the health and attack power from one card. You can take the sigil ability from another card. You can take how much it costs to summon it from another card, and then you get to name the card, and then it'll take a picture of you, and like this little like silhouette figure is the face in that card. So it's like your past selves can be in your deck eventually. You can eventually find them in the future, and that could work to your benefit or not. I thought that was really cool. And about the cost, that was another mechanic in the card game Bones. There's 2 ways to summon creatures. You can sacrifice animals to bring in bigger ones, or you can use bones that you get. So that's the 2 ways to. It's like the stink bug needed 4 bones. Usually when you have an animal that dies, you get a bone. So that's a cool way. But the sacrifice way is very interesting, because you'll see blood drips on the card. Like 1 blood drip, all right, sacrifice 1 animal. 2, 3, you get it. But you don't have just your one deck. You have a separate deck next to it that is only squirrels. Squirrels are free to put down. They don't cost anything. They're usually meant for sacrificing to get a animal that can fight in there.
Like
Squirrels
a
can't
token
fight.
card kind of thing?
Basically, it's just like a placeholder. They can't attack. They can take a hit, but that's it. But it's meant for sacrificing to put in a bigger beast with better attributes. But I just think it's funny to just have a dedicated squirrel deck. There's a little squirrel statue on top of the deck, just to let you know. It's really cool. But it seems like there's just so much going on in this, and explaining it, I don't think I'm doing it enough justice. Honestly, I don't know how anyone really can verbally. I just highly recommend a demo. Even if you play for like 10 minutes, you'll get it. But it felt like there was just so many mechanics going on, and usually that can be overwhelming to some people. Usually it is to me. Sometimes it's like just too many cooks in the kitchen type situation, and maybe it just doesn't go the way it does. But the way this is handled, the way the pacing is handled with this, how you can, yeah, you have to do the card matches. You can't, once you start it, you go through it, but it's very short. The matches are very short. But the in-betweens, when you can get up, walk around the room, try to explore things, try to solve puzzles if you can, or looking through the rule book, or just talking to the guy or whatever. There's so many things in here, but yet it fits all so well. And I'm so impressed by how all these little things are in there. And they're not too in-depth either. Like, you can't go and just, like, have an option, like maybe like in Magic the Gathering Arena, where you can, like, customize a deck from scratch and whatever. You just kind of get what you're given, and that's it. And then sometimes you have to choose a card to put in there, and then, like, that will dictate your future as well. However you play, and knowing when to play said cards. But yeah, with that, the puzzle solving, the lore understanding, the mystery you're trying to decipher here, I think none of it is too much. It takes every element and grabs the most important part, keeps it simplified, and is able to just make it all click together. And to get that from a demo, and that I know is holding back, I think says something. And that left me with some questions, where it's like, when is it bad to have too many, like, maybe too many genres or mechanics in a game, or and like, what are some examples of when it's good? Because I think of more bad ones than good lately, but if it is good, it's not that many mashed together. Usually it's like maybe 2, maybe 3 at most. This one felt like it was like 4 things. I don't know. It was like part board game, part escape room, part card game, part mystery ARG almost type thing. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't think there's ever a point where it's like too many genres. It's I think it's when you start thinking, like, I think when you start thinking there's too many genres, that's when it's a bad thing. And sometimes, I don't think there's a thing that's like 6 or, I don't think the number is like 6 or 7 or anything like that. But like,
yeah, once
you start thinking about like the things in the back while playing the game, I don't think that's ever a good thing sometimes. Most of the time, actually. But like, I think when it feels fractured is when it's at its most. When it feels like one department made something, the other department made something, and there was like no manager or something in the middle, and it's kind of like stitched it together, and it almost feels like 2 games were made into one, and that's when I think it's at its worst. If everything flows naturally, if everything is seamless, and like when you go, like, not just genres, but like when you have a lot of mechanics, but they all end up tying together. Maybe not at first, but like at some point they all start to tie together, and as they tie together, it makes the gameplay richer, or it changes it in a way, or it resets expectations. I think that's when you can get away with having 100 mechanics. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just once it's once you start kind of thinking about it, or it becomes like repetitive, like it doesn't feel good anymore, I think that's when you have an issue. I don't think there's a set number. And you're talking about an example of a game that has a couple different systems. I would think Catherine. That's a weird relationship game, walk around social game, and then the core gameplay of it is this weird puzzle tower climbing thing that's insanely difficult as you keep going through the game. I think that's a good example. I never finished Catherine. It's a very tough game to put down and try to pick back up. That was my problem.
Great answer. Because, like, what I'm thinking, for some reason, is, like, No More Heroes, I think, is a good example. Because it's like a mishmash of things. It's like part action game. Sometimes it's part racing game. Sometimes, or like any games that have like mini games thrown in there. I think they also could qualify. Like, I don't know how much Shenmue really leans into that, or Yakuza, but like, I feel like they do probably a pretty good job of handling a lot of different game mechanics into one thing, because it just makes so much sense with that world that they're in.
Dude, let me tell you what, opening drawers in your house in Shenmue 1, great system.
That needs its own that's its own
system.
game genre right there. Drawer opening.
I feel like the Loop Hero did that. Like, I know that's the same publisher and still like this weird deck building mechanic, but I feel like that one did a really great balance of like, you can kind of go into it how you want. You can adjust on the fly, and there's no wrong way to play that game.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely better ways to play that game than not, but there's no like wrong way. I think, yeah, I mean, that was the one example that kept coming to mind, but
I think that's a good one, because that's like it's you have resource management, you have actual deck building, and then you have like a weird, not necessarily strategy, but kind of strategy,
for sure,
where you place down certain things on the land, and then you have your like Diablo-ish equipment mechanic going on. There's a lot there, and it works pretty well.
But yeah, it's definitely a balance. Like, you need to do it right. You need to make sure that you're not overwhelming the player with too many options, that they choose none, or they choose the one that sucks. I mean, we've talked about this recently with like getting the right weapon, or which weapons you get in a game and when you get them, and what do you end up choosing. Like, would you rather like level 1 all the way up, or have a good balance? Like that, I think can very easily skew the wrong way. And I think that there's a lot more that needs to go into balancing and testing those things than not. I mean, Magic is another example. Like, you brought that one up too, but like, I felt like I made a pretty good deck this week as the season changed over, and I'm like pretty competent across different, opponents, and then I get the wrong draw and the wrong opponent, and just like, it feels bad.
I think a bad example is the most recent Battletoads game.
Yeah, that overall was a bad example of a game. Is that what you mean?
Like, honestly, the first couple levels I don't think were too bad. The problem was that it started to stray from it. It sacrificed that for the other mechanics or genres that it tried to throw in there to keep it more interesting, and it kind of felt like they had a good development process, and then it felt rushed by the time you got halfway through towards the end. It wasn't that much fighting in it. And like, when you have a game that is essentially a beat 'em up, I feel like that needs to be the core at all times. It's fine to have a little mini game here and there where you're on the hover bike going through. Like, that's been there since day one. That's a staple. But then it started doing like a weird platforming thing, which I know the first one kind of did for a little bit. Well, I mean, I guess other ones did too, but just not as much.
Yeah, but... And
then it started doing like this weird like QuickTime event, like musical thing, like the whole like Olympic part, like the Coliseum. It was just weird, and then it just stuck around for a little too long, and then like there was only like maybe one more fight towards the end, and just kind of lackluster. So it's like, I think it was trying to add too much variety, I think, in making up for what it couldn't actually, or like what it wanted to do. That's just how it felt.
I can turn this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I can turn this around with another good example.
Sure.
The game that we have on top of our list currently on game of the year, Nier Automata. Think of all the different game, like I don't think it has a lot of. I don't think it crosses genres that much, but mechanically, there's all kinds of different combat methods throughout the game, and you know when to sprinkle them in and mix it up and whatever. And there's also a level of freedom that Joe was talking about to like kind of play however you want once you kind of get established in that world. But yeah, no, I just remember that's another.
Like I think it's good that we're able to name more good ones than bad ones. I think that's
there's
saying
bad
something.
Ones. No.
There is bad ones. But I think it's good to highlight both. You know.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that we can name more good ones currently than
than
a bad
and
ones.
Just to add on to Joe's, like I think being introduced to them in a careful way that's not all thrown at you at one time. Because as much as I praise Bloodborne and Dark Souls, they just throw everything at you, and you have to be prepared for that. And sometimes that doesn't feel good, and there's a lot of questions. Also, these Blasphemous. I never played the regular game, but that demo did not do you any favors with the amount of stuff they threw at you without much explanation or any explanation at all. Sometimes being thrown into the mix of 7 different systems and 18 different mechanics is not. You have to be careful in how you introduce them as well, I think.
I had to like really do some mental gymnastics to remember Blasphemous. I was like, Blasphemous. And I'm picturing like I was along the right lines. I was picturing Death's Gambit, and then I was remembering Salt and Sanctuary. So I was like right there. But
I think most of the bad ones that I'm thinking of are like just like the standard in mobile games, and I think that's why a lot of them fail the way they do. They just try to throw in too much. And...
Let's incorporate your question to have when too many currencies is not good. I'll start.
More than
Pokemon
one.
Unite.
Yeah. You haven't gone back to Pokemon yet, have you?
Nope. I hit a rage thing there. I'll probably will at some point, like a new season or something like that. I started reading some weird mechanics about that game, and I didn't like what I was reading about some of the weird underlying mechanics that they don't tell you about. So yeah, I walked away.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth my blood pressure.
Yeah.
Are there any like
when
looking for a game, is there like one mechanic that you always look for? But it's just like, got it. That's like this game has this, I'm in. Say no more. Like, oh, it's an open world? I'm in. Oh, are you a barefoot witch? I'm in.
I mean, hey,
are you made by FromSoft? I'm in. Does it start with dark and in Souls? All right, I'm.
If there's a good jump mechanic, I'm almost always in. I can't think of what else. I mean, there's definitely things initially in a game. If it's bad, I'm out.
Right. Or maybe it's not a mechanic. Maybe it's like something visual or something audible.
I was gonna go with the visual. I mean, I've kind of stayed away from it. I've been very good about it, but like a cyberpunk aesthetic. Look, you at least raise my I think I've said this before, but you at least raise my eyebrows at a direct or whatever it is when you have a cyberpunk setting. And I bought Cyberpunk 2077 and played like 5 hours of that game.
Yeah. I think
I should gravitate towards like the like very like hard, rough, edgy, cartoony like type stuff. That's like that you get my attention almost immediately with something like that, or something just or like the opposite end where it's just like batshit realistically creepy looking something. That's like the big two.
Oh, the Batman combat. Just to come back to that, I mean, if you have that, I'm gonna at least try it. Right? I did that for Mad Max. It wasn't for me, but I wouldn't have played that game without it, probably.
If they show off a way of punching someone in the face and make it look so appealing, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. Inscription, that's out. I think it's PC right now only, right? For the demo. And I think even the final release is only set for...
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
At least for now.
But hey, if it's anything like Loop Hero, that'll end up hitting other platforms down the line. I definitely want to check out that. And the full game's out in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I believe. Ooh, 19th?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're closer than it seems to that. Exciting. Well, we've made it through another episode of the Free Cheese Podcast. If you like this one, you can find the rest and other stuff we've done on thefreecheese.com. You can email us, podcast@thefreecheese.com. Twitters, the Free Cheese is at some free cheese. The Matt is at MattyIce131. The Mark is at og_mental. And this week, what are you guys getting into?
Okay, so Mondays and Thursdays are my Magic nights because I play during Monday night football and Thursday night football.
Nice.
Dark Souls 3, obviously, but then I get a new Switch this Friday.
Yeah,
with new Switch, I got things to play with it, including but not limited to Metroid Dread. And I haven't played that WarioWare game yet, so probably touch some WarioWare this week.
Yeah, I'm excited for Metroid. I don't know how much we'll talk about it on next podcast because it'll be pretty early in our lives at that point. Unless I have one of those cool Friday releases where I wake up very early out of nowhere for no reason at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. and play it before work, and then yeah. But I'm definitely jumping back into Metroid this week on the Mister. That was a fun beginning, and it's that game you very quickly feel confident because you're like, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, and then once you start to have to backtrack a whole bunch and you're running into the same dead ends, it starts to suck. So we'll see how long that lasts. But Mark,
I think I'm gonna take a little trip to good old Bright Falls again.
All
oh
right.
nice, yeah.
Right. No, it's breezy out. It's feeling nice. It's fall, you know. Settling in, getting comfy, dipping my toes maybe in the Cauldron Lake, or is it a lake? But yeah, Alan Wake remastered.
Yeah,
it's been a bit.
Yeah, I'd be more inclined if I hadn't played the other one like earlier this year. But now I'm like, I don't need it right now, but when I do need it, I'm excited that this new one's out.
I kind of it's a remaster. Did they do anything mechanically to it? Tweak anything?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think it's mostly a visual thing. Okay. From what I remember, they have a FAQ on their website about it.
I'm curious. Should I just get this and go back through it, or should I just pick up my save? Also, is my save in the cloud? Because I can switch.
And I think I could be wrong, but I think for people on PC, you just get a automatic upgrade.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't think it costs anything. I could be wrong on that.
But I don't know. Is it one of those things though? Because I got it free from Epic Games, so are they going to honor that?
I think. I mean, they have an exclusive deal with Epic, so.
Ooh. All right, I gotta look at
I would hope so.
All that and more awaits you on the Free Cheese episode 422. That's everything I got. We love you, Jack Trenton. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, listener, for listening. Goodbye.